Mentality that we were shown here, and the fact that they got to perform in front of a different set of eyes that they would probably never get to perform in front of live. So I think it's all positive for our players.
Not everyone's so sure though, and the Nets' deadline deal, two-time All-Star point guard Darren Williams can certainly see the difficulties.
There's been talk about having a franchise or a separate league over here, or a division over here. I just don't know how it will work. It would be tough, I think, to play consistent games over here and for teams to come over and play games over there. But
in the midst of that ongoing discussion, the NBA Global Community Outreach Initiative, NBA Cares, was also on show. Since October 2005, the league, players and teams have raised over $145 million and built more than 525 places where families can live, learn and play around the world. In London, local children were given a basketball clinic by some of the game's biggest stars.
1, 2, 3.
Of course, both teams will certainly be looking for victories in the back-to-back games, but you can't help thinking that this is probably a trip that the players could do without in the middle of an 82-game season. This event, though, is not about the matchup on the court. It's about basketball looking for new markets. And if the sellout crowds in London are anything to go by, they might just be getting somewhere. I'm Ashley House at the O2 Arena in London.
And that's all the sport. Back to you.
Now, a stillborn baby has been brought back to life after doctors froze her body for 3 days. They fought to revive Ella Claxton for 25 minutes before using this pioneering technique, as Paul Brennan explains.
9-month-old Ella Claxton plays happily with her mother with no visible ill effects from what was a traumatic birth. Her mother's placenta had ruptured. It took doctors 25 minutes to get Ella's heart beating. And even then, it looked like the baby would be left brain damaged. Ella, they decided, would have to go to a specialist unit 50 kilometres away, in Cambridge.
I didn't know what was going to happen, and they explained about this cooling treatment, that they were going to wrap her up and she was going to be cold for 72 hours, and we didn't know what the outcomes were going to be, but it was a matter of taking time by time, bit by bit.
Ella's body temperature was cooled from 37 degrees to just 33.5 degrees. After 72 hours, her temperature was carefully brought back to normal. The brain damage, which would have been inevitable, had been prevented. The technique was finally passed as safe by the UK's clinical watchdog in May last year, after years of dedicated research by this man and his colleagues at Imperial College London.
About 20 years of experimental studies led on to the clinical trials, which completed in about 2007. And since then, cooling has been introduced widely. Over 1,700 babies have benefited from cooling in the United Kingdom. And the chances of of surviving without any brain injury have been increased by about 50% with this treatment.
And the news is spreading rapidly. The work pioneered by the researchers here at Imperial College's Medical Sciences Centre involved cases from the UK, Hungary, Sweden, Finland and even Israel. But the benefits are now being felt worldwide, as far afield as America and Australia. Inevitably, more research is always needed. The UK remains the only country with a national register of babies treated this way. Keeping track of the future development of children like Ella Claxton will be crucial in further understanding the brain's ability to heal. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera, London.
Fantastic. Well, more news, special reports, blogs, analysis and a wide range of opinion at our website, aljazeera.net/English is the address. Stay with us. I'll be back after the break.
Hello, welcome to a look at the international forecast. We have heavy rain now making its way back into southern Queensland. You can see how the cloud is gathering, it's building, and we will see some very big downpours here over the next few days. A thoroughly wet weekend to come then. Friday sees that rain setting in through southern Queensland. Brisbane will see further problems. That wet weather still very much in place as we go on through Saturday. As you can see, it nudges a little further northwards, but it will stay very disturbed. Joining up with those tropical showers into Northern Territory, into tropical parts of Australia, And then we've got a line of showers coming down into Western Australia. I think for Perth, it should stay largely dry at around 30 Celsius, but showers not too far away. It's hot down towards the southeast. We'll see temperatures 31 Celsius for Adelaide. Not quite so warm there for Melbourne, 24. That's a comfortable temperature, as will be the case over the next few days, with plenty of sunshine. Not too much sunshine on offer for New Zealand, on the other hand. I think for Christchurch, I think it should be largely dry through Friday. We have had problems with some extremely windy weather here, and that will continue to be the case over the next couple of days. And if anything, it will turn increasingly wet as we make our way through the weekend. For Southeast Asia, well, it's sunshine and showers with more very heavy rain for Vietnam.
He's taken stolen goods and he's now dumping them onto the world without any sort of consideration for consequences.
From people making the news.
If the North will be saved a lot of trouble, I think it is important that they should come together.
To those it affects.
We do accept that there was very bad mistakes made in our banking area.
Behind the headlines.
Most South Koreans are not interested in reunification.
Is the inside story. At this time on Al Jazeera.
As protests, violence, and the call for political reform spreads across the Arab world, Al Jazeera's in-depth coverage of events on the ground brings you the news as it breaks. Ongoing coverage of the Libya uprising on Al Jazeera.
Fighters in Libya's oil-rich region call for backup after a fresh wave of airstrikes. This is Al Jazeera live from Doha. I'm Imran Garda. Also ahead, finally heading home, the migrant workers leaving limbo in Libya. Plus, escalating violence in Côte d'Ivoire puts it back in the UN sights. We'll be speaking to the nation's ambassador. And Egypt moves a step closer to forming a government with the appointment of a new prime minister. It's just gone 2 a.m. in Libya. Forces loyal to the country's embattled leader are trying to take control of the east, but they're not having much success. Gaddafi's fighters launched fresh airstrikes on the strategic oil town of Breka, which is now held by his opponents. Some reports say they may have been targeting the airport, where the two sides have been battling for control. This follows similar strikes on Wednesday. And US President Barack Obama has used his strongest language yet to denounce Gaddafi. He says the colonel has lost all legitimacy and must give up power right away. But it's not just opponents in his own country that Gaddafi has to worry about. The chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court says he'll investigate the Libyan leader, his sons, and those with authority over his security forces for human rights violations during the ongoing conflict. Well, in a moment, we'll hear from his son, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi.